So it doesn't mean you're tied to what that plan says. It's to help you get going in the right direction. And so over the years, you can amend the plan, and I would think 10 to 15 years from now, it would be time to create a whole new plan based on what the village looks like at that time, or at that time, the city of West Milton. Do you have any questions for me? I'll turn it over to our consultant who's going to present this draft comp plan.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Rosa. I'm from Collabo Planning. I believe I've met most of you before. There's one or two new faces here, so just a little background on who we are and what our role in the process has been. So we are an urban planning practice that works with communities, local governments, and other folks to create visions for the future of their neighborhoods or their towns or their villages. And what our role in this planning process has really been a facilitator. So what we really endeavored to do was really listen to the residents of West Milton, the elected officials, and the planning board members to help kind of craft this plan over a series of years. So it's a little bit unique in that we didn't do it all in a 9-month to a year period like you would perhaps see in other places. We took our time. We kind of rolled through various sections of the plan, starting with the downtown, looking at the parks, the community identity, and then we led into where we are today, which is the final document, which includes really all of the ingredients of the comprehensive plan itself. And so this was distributed to you earlier this week, so I expect you all to have read and reviewed and mastered all 200 plus pages of this document, so we can have our discussion here tonight. No, but really, I'm really going to give you kind of a high-level overview of what's in this bad boy. And what we'll really be doing from here on out is giving you, the planning board, some time to review this, provide comments and feedback. If we need to make revisions to this draft before it then goes to the council, that's the mechanism. So for some of you, this may be your first time seeing just about everything in here. And for others, you've seen quite a bit of this over the last couple of years. But I'm going to start from the top, and feel free to stop me at any point. This is really intended to be both like informative to tell you what's going on in this document, but also a workshop, a conversation about the various elements of the plan itself. Okay, so what we're going to do here today, we've kind of gone through introductions. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about kind of Comprehensive Plan 101 and why we endeavored to kind of take on this plan process, why we wanted to update it, how we use this document looking forward, and then what's in the various sections. Like, how is this going to guide the future growth and change of the village over the course of the next 10 to 20 years? I'll go through each of the sections of the plan, again at a very high level, kind of looking at the goals, but underneath all those goals, there's objectives and strategies that are much more detailed. Okay, so I explained a little bit about who we are. These are the team members, Benito and Aisha, who are on the line here today. So they're listening in to your questions and your feedback. They've been really instrumental in putting this document together and kind of fine-tuning it. So a lot of what they hear from you all tonight is going to go into any revisions that we take forward in this process. So what is a comprehensive plan? It's really a long-range policy document to guide decision-making here in the village over the course of the next 10 to 20 years. And it's an official document that gets adopted by the local government. So it's something that you can reference and point to and refer to whenever a developer comes in front of you and says, I want to do this, or decisions are being made about community facilities or infrastructure, or even the schools, how that fits into the future of the community itself. So it's really a roadmap. So the plan itself includes, as I mentioned, a series of chapters around things like land use, open space, parks, downtown. Each chapter has a series of goals. So the goals are really kind of the high level, what we're hoping to achieve. Underneath the goals, we have the objectives, which really get into the measurable actions that the village can take over the next 10 to 20 years to really, steer the ship in the right direction. And then we have an implementation section at the end, which includes a series of, matrices that have everything listed out. We can check things off as they get accomplished. Sarah mentioned earlier about starting a Main Street program in downtown West Milton. That's actually in the plan, so that's an example of something where the plan is a living document, and you can check things off, you can revise it, you can refine it going forward. So here are the kind of the core chapters, the core elements. I'm going to move this here so everyone can read this. Okay, let's try that. So we have the community character and identity chapter, which really is more of the vision statement, who we want to be as a village going forward at a high level, and what makes West Milton special, and what we want to represent it as. We have the downtown West Milton chapter, which we spent a good deal of time and energy on earlier in the process, that really creates a structure for downtown improvements and change and growth. What types of improvements to the public realm, which includes the parks and the streets, what type of new investment and development should be promoted in the downtown area. Then we have land use, which looks village-wide at where future changes. Land use means, residential, commercial, industrial, open space. So the land use chapter helps to guide that future growth. And a lot of that has to do with potential future annexation, because the village is essentially built out. So when new growth happens at the edges of the community, this chapter will help to kind of direct the priorities related to that. Parks and open space looks at all of the inventory of the parks that are here today, and then talks about improvements to the specific parks, but then also kind of overall guidelines for where we should be looking at investment in new park facilities, or improvements to maybe park areas that are underutilized that can be a bigger asset. Transportation infrastructure includes all the streets and the sidewalks throughout the village. Talks about improvements to those areas, and I'll get into that a little bit. Economic development, we were just referring to the plan that's in place to recruit new businesses into the community and into the downtown. Well, this has goals and objectives related to that. The community facilities are all of the things like the police and the fire and the schools and the library. And then the implementation section, which kind of ties everything together nicely. Okay, so why update the plan? So Jeff mentioned the last one was done in 2004. I think a lot of folks didn't even know it existed. And it's probably, I think it was maybe a 5 or 10 page document. I don't think there were maps, graphics, photos, drawings. It was very much a series of goals. And so, we took that into account as we started this process, but we wanted to create something that was much more dynamic and ready to be used from 2025 onward. And so this really builds upon those past strategies to respond to challenges. It supports budget and policy decisions, as I mentioned. So when we're debating about whether the village should spend funding on this project or that project, we can always refer back to the plan and say, well, this helps to guide our course of action. Helps to recognize realistic opportunities for growth, maps out a path to implement desired changes, and that this is rooted in community feedback. There's been a lot of data that's been collected that's helped to inform this. This isn't something that Jeff and Collabo or the planning board or even the council just did in a vacuum. There were surveys, there was community outreach, there were lots of conversations with staff and other people throughout the village that helped inform what's gone into this document. Okay, this gets into a little bit of a technical part of why we're doing a comp plan, but because West Milton operates under a home rule legislation, the village can exercise powers of self-governance and the adoption of a charter. And so the charter serves the village constitution, defines its powers, functions, government procedures, provided it does not conflict with state and federal constitutions. And so the charter really allows and kind of sets up the directive to create and adopt a comprehensive plan. So that this is all kind of tied together with the idea of, the structure of West Milton as a home rule community. So again, this plan is going to help with decision making. It will really, there's legal language that talks about that the council shall adopt and potentially amend from time to time this document. And that after submittal of the comp plan by the village manager, it goes to the planning board. You all, really refine this and provide any feedback, and then to the council itself. So our process began about 3 years ago in 2022. We started kind of with a series of community conversations and walking tours and learning more about the dynamics of West Milton. That rolled into our existing conditions. So we looked at the demographics and the maps of various things that were here today. And that included, as I mentioned, 2 different surveys that helped to inform this document, which I believe overall there were several hundred survey results that fed into a lot of the goals that have come out of this plan. So when people ask you, why we're doing this comp plan or why this decision is being made, you can say this is really the will of the community. We've taken all of this feedback, and that's informed these goals. So character, community, identity, we did the later half of 2022. The downtown chapter was really an entire year, 2023. We also then got into the future land use plan. So we were in front of this group a few times talking about future land use. That was happening kind of around the same time that some of the zoning ordinance work was being done. And so we were kind of right in the mix with all of that. Parks and open space for 2023. 2024, 2025, we looked at transportation infrastructure, facilities, and economic development. So all of these chapters have been kind of integrated and reviewed. And then we've taken the last several months to go back to these earlier chapters and update them with new things that have happened since then. We've been able to get a nature trail built in Municipal Park. There's been several funding opportunities that have come through for various programs. The amphitheater in Municipal Park is something that's moving forward, and that was a catalyst project that was identified here in this plan. So we've tried to kind of go in and fine tune it and hone in on the things that have changed over the last couple years. So before I kind of dive into the different sections, just want to see if there's any comments or questions or thoughts on kind of the purpose of this plan and how we're going to use it. If not, we can just keep on going. Okay. So as I mentioned, existing conditions was the first chapter of the plan. And so as you go through, you'll see a lot of data like this that kind of captures a snapshot. We tried to update this again so it's as current as can be for 2025. But you can see, the population is fairly stable overall. The age distribution, median age of folks here in the village is about 41 years old, so a little bit younger than me. But it's interesting to see the dynamics compared to other communities, which we've tried to highlight as well. The racial composition, the educational attainment, over 90% of village residents have a high school diploma or higher. We looked at the employment of folks here in the village and the housing tenure. So it was kind of interesting to me that you think of West Milton as being heavily ownership in all single family homes, but 1/3 of the homes here in the village are rental households. So over 30%, or 31% are renter occupied. So you have homeowners, you have renters, people kind of from all walks of life. So then we really kind of got into the community engagement portion, and you can see we did a lot of pop-ups and in-person things where people had a chance to really weigh in, looking at the downtown, but then looking at other parts of the community as well. We did things like, giving people fake money to spend on their priorities to help us identify things that were most important. A lot of things with maps and models. So key person interviews, as I mentioned, the surveys that really focused heavily on recreation amenities that we wanted to see, and then the other was much more general about the overall goals. Downtown walking tour, the pop-ups. So we were at the 4th of July event. We were at an event here at the firehouse. We're a lot of different ways to kind of reach people organically, and then obviously a lot of these meetings with the planning board and council over the last few years. The fall festival, that was a big kind of milestone and success, was opening the nature trail as part of this process, and then the public meetings that I just mentioned. Okay, so starting with character, community character and identity. We have a whole chapter on this, and it's really about how West Milton aspires to strengthen its identity as a vibrant riverfront destination, celebrates recreation, music, and local eateries, while preserving and enhancing the vintage and timeless charm of the neighborhood, or of the community. So we have this kind of river and recreation theme, we have this vintage timeless charm theme, like thinking about how these kind of get woven together as an overall vision statement for the community character. And we really want to ensure and really reflect on how the character of the village is really shaped by the people. And so here's another example of something that's happened in the last year, the new mural downtown. This was in the plan and it's gotten done, and so these are great successes. We want to continue to celebrate that, check it off the list, move on to the next thing, and build on that positive momentum. There's bigger things that we need to tackle, like the former Buzz Theater, but you get these small wins and you get rolling, and it kind of creates that positive momentum overall. So the goals of this section, really to ensure that the village utilizes its natural assets and public spaces to become that river and recreation community. So you want people, when they think of West Milton, to think of river, recreation. This is somewhere I can go and have a great afternoon or spend several days in and around using the recreation features that are here. We want West Milton to be a kind of a hub for music and food, offer enhanced hospitality and vibrant public areas. So that could be in the downtown, but it could also be Lowry Fields or other parts of the village where people come together. We know that there's great like annual events like the 4th of July festival and the parades and everything that goes on. So continuing to build on that overall is going to not only draw people here and create economic development, but really strengthen the overall identity of the village. We want to reflect that vintage and timeless character. We have a lot of great historic buildings here. You have a lot of great just history underlying that overall. And then you also have a lot of the shops, especially in the downtown area, kind of cater to that antique-y, I would say, old-timey charm, and that really resonates with people. I think people really find that important, and it also draws visitors to come here. Then we got the downtown section, which kind of builds off of, again, the overall character. But downtown West Milton residents want to see it preserved, the qualities and atmosphere that define the downtown area, while introducing new features that encourage walkability, gathering spaces, and a thriving business environment. So those are kind of the top three things. So walkability would be like, how do I walk across 48 really easily without getting hit by a car or a truck speeding through? But also, how do I easily walk from my home to the downtown area with my kids in tow? The gathering spaces. So we know we have a municipal park. There's a lot of investment going on there. But the downtown plan also looks at what we're kind of calling the Village Square, which is the municipally owned parking lot where the Christmas tree is. And I think the lighting is going to be in a couple days. So it's already like a natural gathering place. But how do you enhance that space to serve not only kind of parking needs in the village, but also a space for people to come together and celebrate and have food trucks and festivals, kind of building off of what's organically happening, but creating a more defined space. And then the thriving business environment. Just in the last 3 years, there's been some older businesses that have gone away, but then there's a lot of new exciting things coming in at the same time. So it's kind of the right moment for some positive change overall and redefining what the downtown's going to be for the next 10 years. So we have an illustrative plan in the document, which is really just a nice, pretty picture that shows where new things can happen in the downtown. And so it's organized around circulation, connectivity, parks and open space, and then potential redevelopment of either public or privately owned property. So sites that may be underutilized parking lots or vacant lots or things like that. So all of that is kind of defined in this vision. The fact that it's illustrative means it's not set in stone. It's intended to show kind of the community's intent for how the downtown should evolve. But just because we have a building shown on one side and not the other, or a mural shown on one building and not the other, doesn't mean it has to be exactly that. It's just the overall intent, the ingredients that we want to put into the pot. So we want to capitalize on the natural assets. Again, the Stillwater River is a huge asset to the community, and however we can better connect to that and leverage that is going to be important. Strengthen it as the quaint, vibrant destination with year-round activities. Foster a pedestrian-friendly downtown, and then enhance local events, festivals, and gathering opportunities. Okay. From the downtown, we zoom out a bit to the future land use of the village as a whole. So the village is taking a proactive approach to assess current land uses to identify how the community is growing and help plan for future growth that accommodates development, open space, and prospective employers. So proactive means setting the course ahead of time so that you have a structure instead of just reacting to a developer coming in and saying, I want to build this or this or this, and then saying, well, we don't know if that's a good idea or not. So the land use chapter is going to help to guide those future decisions for how the village should grow over time. So we mapped the growth, looking at areas of future change and areas that may be purely residential versus more mixed use. And I think we even have a couple of smaller light industrial growth areas where new employment could take root. And so this is going to help to guide decisions. When the Stillwater Crossings was a unique situation when it happened several years ago. It's the first time a large development had happened in quite a while here in West Milton, and an annexation had to occur. So now there's growth happening on the east side of the river. How does that continue to evolve? And then what happens on this side of the river as well, and going south and north at the boundaries of the village. So this chapter helps to define that portion of the plan. So the goals are a mix of land uses that contribute to a stable tax base and advance the local economy, that the village can support a variety of activities, businesses, and places to live. So variety is really the key word there, that it's not a one-size-fits-all. We're only doing single-family homes. We're not considering other types of housing choices, senior housing, transitional housing, rental housing. This is really looking at everything and thinking about how we can create choices for all the future families. The preservation of the natural environment as new development progresses. You don't want to degrade your natural amenities. You have the river and the hills and the green spaces. You don't want development to impede upon some of those places. So thinking about areas of preservation and areas of change is kind of a key objective of this chapter. So parks and open space was the next layer that we uncovered as part of this. And so that was really about recognizing the importance, strengthening the park amenities, and expanding them throughout the community to build pride and to build ownership. And so we have village-owned parks like Municipal Park, but then there are a lot of other natural green spaces, spaces that are tied to the school. We have the Cascades, which is owned by private ownership, but it's a great natural amenity. So thinking about how all of these things come together in a green network. So we wanted to look at the residential areas of the village, which are shown in yellow, the future growth areas, which are kind of outlined in pink, and then think about where park investments should happen to connect to those areas. So you want to be able to walk to a park in 10 or 15 minutes with your 3-year-old in hand. Thinking about how to have spaces like that. So where can we be? Like McCall Park was one that but number 4 there, McCall Park. It's back behind the IGA. A lot of people don't even know it's there. So we spent quite a bit of time thinking about how that park could be improved, expanded, invested in to be kind of a green anchor for the southern part of the village. And conversely, thinking about over at, on the east side, but that's Stillwater Cross. It's not called Stillwater Crossings anymore. I think it's just changed its name. But thinking about the east side of the river, as more and more residents move into that area, we want to also have park space available or connections to the riverfront, so people have those amenities. So kind of looking at all of that in tandem and really creating goals about parks that are accessible and enhanced entry points for all residents. So one of the kind of early action items that came out of this plan, along with the nature trail, was a new park entrance. The name of the street escapes me. Water Street. So kind of a trailhead park entry at Water Street to allow access to the southern part of Municipal Park and kind of going down the hill there. So the public access, thinking about the waterfalls and other natural areas, how can we improve public access to those features? Those are really defining moments in the natural features of this part of the Miami Valley, and we want to highlight those. People will drive to your town to go see a waterfall, and then once they're there, they're going to spend some money at a store or go visit other things that are available here. So thinking about that. Additional programming and events. There's a lot of great things that are happening at Municipal Park, but we want to also think about where can other green spaces be programmed with other uses over time to enhance them, bring people there. And then just generally more parks and open space. Yes, Sarah.
So that lot at Water Park,
Mm-hmm.
where the new entrance is to the park,
Yeah.
like to the trails, we're actually working on putting a park in there. Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, so we identified that as kind of an entry point, trailhead. We know that the village owns that whole property. I don't think we have specific recommendations for like a design for that space, but it really fits in with
We're
the
working
goal
on it. We're
overall.
gonna have something ready in January. We've got an event planned for
Okay.
October for that spot, but I just wasn't sure if that was in that comprehensive land use plan.
Yeah, it's
Turn that
reflected
lot
there.
into a park, but we do have intentions of putting parking spaces there.
I would point out too, that it's not just access to the park, it's also access to the Founders Cemetery.
Yep.
Which really is when you say cornerstone of the community, that's where the people that built this community are interred.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's kind of will be a cool way to safely access that.
So when you say this will be a park, what else are you thinking happens in that space? I'm just curious.
So the plan, I believe, we're gonna have permanent cornhole boards. And if anybody's listening, we want to sponsor, so. The other thing, we're gonna have some picnic tables. So our thought also is making it super ADA accessible.
Yeah.
So not just like minimum standards, but like really ADA accessible. To have an outdoor, basically just seating area. It's not a huge location. And then maybe like,
Like a swing, a big kind of porch swing.
yeah.
The pocket park concept.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah, we've identified it as like an entry point, but I don't think we really called it out as like a new park space. But knowing like what you all are planning, we can make some amendments to that section to make sure it reflects that. That's great. Thank you.
It was Casey.
All right. So community facilities and services. We sat with staff from a lot of the various departments here in the village. and organizations like Milton Union Schools and the library and the daycare center, try to get a handle on future growth and needs for the community overall. So the village just prioritized community facilities and services to identify improvements to meet current and future capacity needs, an essential component to support future growth and development. So this really got into thinking about the overall infrastructure, the sewer, water, the streets, the sanitation, how that kind of evolves and where investments are needed to support future growth. Oops. Looking at the space here at Village Hall, but also, a plan that really prioritizes the vitality of the downtown area. We also made some recommendations on staff and resources for the village. So kind of like where staff might be needed to help fulfill certain goals. Public Works really looked at community facilities and services that are designed to meet the needs of both residents and businesses. And so we sat down with staff and really went over where investments are happening today, the capital improvements that are planned for the next year, and then looking forward. And then the same thing with the police, getting their take on things like recruitment, looking at the resources and personnel that will be needed as the village kind of continues to expand. The fire department, they talked about their equipment that they have today, what they could envision needing in the future, thinking about supporting the village and the township as a whole, and then the staff and resources to really respond to emergency calls. The school district awareness of programs.
Pause you for a second.
Yes, go ahead.
So we got police and fire, but we don't have rescue in there.
Okay.
And that's kind of to me, the third leg of the stool that kind of meets that public safety realm. So maybe if we could add that in there in some way, shape, or form, that we're focused on it, aware of it, and addressing it.
Yes.
If, in all fairness.
No, that's a great.
And then
Great recommendation. Thank you.
The fire chief had made like his 10-year, 20-year plan. Didn't the police chief do of things that they want to buy over the next?
I believe he did.
Is that something that would go in this plan too, or that lives somewhere else?
It could, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I think we kept it a little bit vague, a little vaguer than having like each specific piece of equipment and such, but this is all based on conversations with both of the chiefs and them kind of relaying their information. But yeah, we should make sure that there's nothing in there that we're not reflecting overall in this document.
I think he might have done
Hey,
that.
Adam?
Yeah,
Adam?
yeah, go ahead, Benito.
Sorry, I couldn't really hear the question, but I might be able to provide some insight. Would you mind repeating it one more time?
So the question was just about the fire department, or the fire chief and the police chief have kind of a laundry list of specific items and equipment that they would like to purchase, I would say, over the short term, and just making sure that was kind of clearly connected to what we have in the comp plan.
The fire chief.
Yeah, so I don't know if they can hear me. You
I think they can.
Repeat this. Okay, great. So, hello everyone. My name is Benito. I have been leading this comprehensive plan update and have been working with Jeff and Adam to connect the dots and bring other additional substance into the plan that makes it useful for everyone and allows everyone to understand it. But in terms of to answer your question, the specific chapter does just talk about, like Adam said, high-level information. We do provide some specifics, again, according to the conversations that I had with the fire and police chiefs. But Adam is right. We don't get into the specific detailed list of equipment or items needed, but we do, emphasize that type of equipment and services are needed so that they can perform their job accordingly, and again respond to, have the resources that respond to emergency situations. So again, if you go back and look at that plan at your convenience, you'll be able to see some of that information there. And at that point, if you feel like it requires a few more details or edits here and there, we can certainly make those adjustments as needed.
Thanks, Benito. Sarah, did you have another question or comment? Okay. Did somebody else hit that? Somebody was jumping in.
I just feel like your plan could just say basically this already exists, sort of thing,
Just
right?
make a
Like,
reference to it.
yeah. So if someone was reading it, they would know maybe that it is
Yeah.
out there. I don't know.
It could be incorporated to it as an attachment.
Yeah, appendix.
I think that's actually a really good idea. I feel like he probably did that after you guys had spoken with him,
Mm-hmm.
because you guys had those conversations like in 22, and I think he did this
Kind
like
of
last year.
Yeah, I think we actually spoke with him in the past 6 months.
Oh,
So
okay.
this should
Okay.
be fairly current, but I don't know that we got all that detail.
That's okay.
So,
That's
but yeah,
why we're here.
yeah, send it to us and we'll at least like reference it and kind of connect the dots. Okay. School district, so awareness of programs and services provided, funding to reinstate learning programs and bus services that were previously cut. So these were goals for Milton Union Schools. In addition to the existing school building, to potentially increase space for learning, activities, and staff. The library, the overall goal would really be a strategic plan that outlines the key initiatives for the evolution of the library. They would love to have a new building that accommodates the needs and operations of library staff and patrons over time. And so, we wanted to outline those goals. The daycare center that goes above and beyond to provide services and meet the needs of West Milton and the surrounding communities. Additional staff and resources for childcare of all ages. Economic development. So efforts are underway by village staff to nurture local businesses and bring new economic opportunities to the community, and that's great. Like there's actual momentum going on through this to really recruit the right types of businesses. We want to promote economic growth. A lot of the events, the assets, and community characteristics to help strengthen the local economy. And that gets back all the way back to the community identity, building off of that identity for economic development. We want to have a robust and strong tax base that supports local services and more. Analysis of employment opportunities to identify potential employers that can be located in West Milton. And partnerships with organizations to help strengthen the village's local economy. The Main Street program would be a great example of a partnership, a structure to help strengthen the economy in the downtown area. So transportation and infrastructure, pedestrian safety is a primary concern. We heard that loud and clear. And so the comp plan looks at places where pedestrian improvements can happen, crosswalks, sidewalks, etc. We've identified those areas. We've also identified areas for bike improvements, bike facilities. Could be a bike lane or a trail, road intersections, and then thinking about the overall trail network that we've begun to establish and how do we connect into the regional trail network here in the Miami Valley. So there's some big moves in the transportation section. We've shown illustrative plans of two different, I would say, roundabout areas, one at 48 and 571, and then one at the southern part of the village at 48 and Frederick Garland Road. So these would be obviously big investments, big improvements, but these are the two areas that not only residents have identified as being trouble spots for circulation, but the data supports the accident data that's happening at both of these intersections supports significant improvements. So really want to use that as something to start conversations with ODOT and other folks to really start to envision, get the engineers in the room and start to define what some of these bigger public improvements can really look like in terms of street connections or improvements. So we want to have an accessible sidewalk, trail, and bicycle network, really promote that idea of connectivity. The trail network encourages non-motorized vehicles in and beyond the village and kind of connecting regionally. And then the road network that's really designed to meet the needs of residents, visitors, businesses, and the village services. So fire, police, rescue, making sure that they can all navigate the roads safely. Then we get into the implementation section. This again gets into a little bit more the nitty gritty, but really thinking about that the goals and recommendations here can be met through various different approaches. So it's dependent on changing priorities. There's time-sensitive agendas for leadership changes every year or so here. So there's different dynamics at play, but we want the comprehensive plan to be kind of a foundation. The implementation really reflects the community needs and potential development opportunities. It's contingent on funding. So Jeff and I have had a lot of conversations over the last few years about applying for different funding opportunities and grants, and how do we strategically go after different funding layers that we can kind of put on each other to build a project up. The amphitheater in the park is a great example of this. We have some funding in hand today. There's other resources and partners that can kind of be brought into the fold to expand the scope of that project. So the plan will require periodic review and kind of commitment from the planning board to look at this and revise it over time, especially as big changes happen. You know, if a new development goes in on the south side of town, that's say 100 new homes, we want the plan to kind of reflect that and be able to evolve with something like that. The goals are dynamic and should be revised as needed as the plan changes. I think in 2004, it was a much different world than what we're living in 2025. It's going to look a lot different in 2045. So, the plan needs to continue to evolve over time. Okay, I said a lot there. And I know that there's a lot more information in this document here, but just want to open it up again to more kind of general questions. If there's something that you think really needs to be kind of highlighted or emphasized in this document, or if there's something that you really like, that you think, we're really representing it the way that you would all want to see it, that feedback is good as well. But I'll stop talking for a second and just kind of open the floor up.
More of a comment or an observation of the opportunities that have come our way. It seems like sometimes they come last minute, last second, like the community block grant thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that came at us fast and furious last second. And the same thing with some other like somebody came in and talked to us about the Garland and 48 intersection and the possibility. They were outside groups coming in and talking to us, and it was always very pressured to get on somebody else's agenda or someone else's thing. It had to be done by a certain time. What do we do as a community to be more at the forefront?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we identify the things we don't know that we need to know? Like,
Yeah.
those are just two things that I felt like came at us from the sides and weren't in our windshield, but
Yeah.
of great potential for our
Absolutely.
community. And glad they made it in our lane. But how do we find those things and coordinate them like this is
To be
supposed
proactive.
to be? Yes.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So the plan actually identifies a series of resources for various projects that can be looked at that are local, state, or federal grant opportunities for things like trails or bike lanes or things like that. So I would encourage, when there's a conversation around a topic like that, to take a look at this. You might need to do a little research and kind of figure out deadlines for various things. I think the other thing is really just being really, if there's a developer that comes in and is really interested in maybe doing something in the village, like send them this document so that they understand, they have a clear expectation of what the community or what the community's expectations are and what your expectations are before they get too far down the road with something. You know, the plan really talks about, well, you know, we would accept or promote light industrial uses in a couple pocket areas here, but we probably don't want it right in the center of town. So that's just an example. You want to be able to use this to help inform some of those decisions, use it as a tool, give it to people. Even if it's not the whole thing, you can take out a section and say like, hey
Once
guys,
it's in a PDF, it's.
yeah, our comp plan, it says this. The other thing that we've already begun to do is for things like the amphitheater grant application, we've lifted text and graphics directly from this plan to go into a grant application. So you can kind of say like, all right, if you really want to do a new bicycle lane, we can pull out a section of this document, put it into the grant application, say that the comp plan is directing, you know, the investment in this way, and you're already like halfway there for applying for whatever it is. And so you want to be able to like use it in that way too, strategically. There's always going to be things that come out of left field and you're going to have to like jump on it and align. But I guess in the case of like the CDBG, we weren't successful this year, but there will be other rounds going forward. So now you know, and you're kind of plugged in and you can prepare a little bit ahead
Yeah, I
of time.
just felt like the staff did a great job of pulling together a quick survey and whatnot, but it was all like, man, if we'd had 6 months, would we have
Yeah.
been more competitive with what we put out there on that?
Yeah, I mean, more time is always better, but you're in the same boat as most communities where it's like everybody's so busy doing a million things, and it's like, oh, there's an opportunity, let's jump on it. We gotta hit it quick, pull everything we can pull together to put something in. But obviously, if you have more lead time and you can kind of like with the amphitheater idea, get a little subcommittee together, have a smaller group working on it and tracking those opportunities. That's a good example of, you know, how I would suggest going forward.
When you mentioned the parks and the Water Street entrance and whatnot, I would also point out that the village owns, was it 30 acres, Jeff, on the north or the
Yeah.
east side across the river from the park. And
Yep.
I think
That's in the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, that's such an awesome untapped resource that could bring those two together. And I don't know where it's been left off, but the developer, at the beginning of it, there was supposed to be some common use green space, and I thought some type of park within the development that,
So want to cross them south?
yeah, with the HOA or something, I was thinking back at
Hasn't been
the,
in plans that I've seen since I've been here.
I don't know why, I'm going back to the original sales pitch, but maybe in my head, but I thought there was something that was supposed to be, again, that would be within that neighborhood and not necessarily a city park, but
And that's a great example where the plan outlines the need for a park space on the east side of the river. If there's large development coming in, like you can leverage conversations with these developers to ensure that a portion of that property gets used for a public space, figure out whether it's going to become a village amenity or something that's maintained by another group or whatever it may be. But like the intent is, as development happens on that side of town, we need to identify a park location for these folks that are living there.
So, to me, this is invaluable, right? This is one of the reasons that we need this comprehensive land use plan so desperately, honestly, is to be able to identify, if you don't have a plan and you don't know where you're going, we're just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
And I've read some of the stuff in the other chapters, so I'm aware of like certain situations, but I think that this is really like why this is so valuable. One question that came to mind when he was talking about grants. So you've obviously put in a lot more time than you guys probably do with other cities that you work with. Because typically I think in Troy it took like less than 18 months to get theirs completely done and adopted, and we're at almost year 4. So when we have like opportunities, because I know us on council, we all have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So to research grants and find this, like, that's just not, it's just not feasible. But how long are you available for us to be like, hey, like, we're at this point in the plan. We've got these things done. Can you help us to identify some grants that may be available? Is that something that you guys can help us do?
Yeah, that's something I feel really strongly about. Like, a lot of what we do is helping to go beyond planning into action. So I'm always, whenever I see an opportunity for something that I think fits in with like a plan that we've worked on, I always send it to the client and say like, hey, this would be a great thing for whatever it may be. Again, like going back to a bike lane or a trail. This is a great opportunity I just saw. You guys should consider applying. It fits in with the goals of the comp plan. We're happy to help write a grant application just at like an hourly rate if needed, or we can connect you with somebody who can assist. Like we want to play that connector role. But obviously there's going to be a lot to kind of keep your head around in terms of different opportunities. A lot of villages and cities have like a grants manager position who kind of tracks a lot of those things and applies for things every year. I don't know if that's something to consider. Maybe it can be folded into another role with somebody on staff, but that's not a unique position. That's something that's fairly standard.
Would it be too far out of the realm? And again, not trying to, not to put planning board on the spot, but is that the group that is uniquely positioned to take us from a dream list or wish list to an action list? Mm-hmm. Is that within the scope and realm of a planning board?
You want to speak on that at all?
I think it can, but it all depends. The charter's not very specific, other than they're the guiding body to the council on growth. And that means that's where the comprehensive plan comes in. Certainly, we've talked about adding staff. There's several different areas that the village could benefit from additional staffing when you're ready to make that addition. But we do the best in terms of looking for grants and applying as we can, as well as all the other responsibilities that Ben and I and the whole staff have.
Yeah. And things change constantly with every new administration, and Washington, D.C. kind of turns everything on its head. Different opportunities, different grants, different priorities. You have to be able to kind of roll with the punches too, year after year.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of hear any thoughts from you all as well. I know you're kind of digesting this as we go through, but is there anything you see in here that you wanted to comment on, or questions you might have?
I had one, I like the idea of this being a living document and everything. Is there something that could be set in place for, like, to benefit the life of the document for the community maybe? Like, to help community members if they maybe have access to the document, where they could, I don't know, put their 2 cents in anywhere, just as years go by, 5, 10 years down the road.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I mean, I think a lot of communities, obviously they post their comp plan on their website, but a lot of them kind of peel it apart into different sections, like click here to look at the Parks and Recreation, click here to look at this.
Yeah.
You could have a comment, box set up at each section for people to give specific comments on any of those things. Or if the city is doing I know that you all did another survey recently. So there could be ways of saying like, we want to ask you some questions about these things. This is what the comprehensive plan is showing. Like, use that to inform some of the questions and feedback that you're getting from residents over time.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting thing for the planning board to consider, like how to utilize this document with the public and make sure that people understand it and that they're able to digest it. Because not everyone's going to take this big thing and read through it, but there could be bite-sized pieces. We talked about the whole thing with the sidewalks and sidewalk improvements. So there's a little bit of education that goes into that, and then there's kind of like, well, these are the rules, and this is the guidance, and this is what we're hoping to achieve. And if people don't see the big picture, then they're going to be more reactive to proposals. But helping them understand what this big picture is, I think, could be beneficial.
Yeah, that's just important to me, it being something that can kind of thrive, I guess, as years go by.
I really like that idea of combining what both of you said and the idea of it being posted and comments and feedback.
I mean, even a QR code
Right.
on the second page or something.
Yep.
I'm not sure if there's already a space for public comments on the, the World Wide Web, but
I would have it broken down maybe in chapters wherever we post it so that people don't get overwhelmed. Like they can literally click, open up that chapter and maybe digest that and give feedback on that if they want, but not have to scroll through the entire document.
Yeah.
You don't
You
want
know.
to search.
Right. Take it on in digestible chunks
Yeah.
if they're so moved to do so.
Yeah.
But getting that community feedback, I think, is an awesome
it's
idea.
everything, I think.
Yeah.
Great suggestion.
Um,
Yeah, Benito, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to move spaces so that way I can talk clearly, but that is a good idea. When I was talking to a couple of representatives from the school district, the library, even the police and fire departments, it would be, they thought it would also be a good idea to somehow disseminate this information or make a copy available, once everyone reviews it and it's formally adopted. But to have a copy at the library, to have a copy with the school district, and I think there was just very preliminary discussions or just ideas being thrown out about, for example, the school district using that plan with their student body as well as the staff, right? That's one way to get, effective or quality comments on the plan and somehow, have that information relayed over to the village. And again, you get that, substantial information that brings value. As Adam mentioned, if you issue out surveys here and there, again, you can, another good idea is just to tailor some of those questions according to the information that's in the plan. So there's several possibilities that were discussed. Some are mentioned in the plan, but again, it just depends on village leadership and what you think is appropriate. These are, what's in the plan are just, the initial steps that you all can take. I know it is overwhelming, but, Collabo has been working with Westmoreland for some time. Jeff has been very instrumental in helping to fill in some of those gaps, and the people that I talk with, always held him in high regard because he was able to identify additional funding for some of their initiatives. I know there was a grant that the daycare center was able to receive because of Jeff's help. So again, it just depends on the ideas that you come up with, having the staff and the capacity to execute some of those strategies. But as Adam mentioned, we are here to help as needed, and again, so is Jeff.
Thank you, Benito.
I
Yeah.
think we need to do a better job of having a council and planning board joint meetings. I think this is the first one I've been to in 5 years. We do it with the school and the township quarterly, but when ODOT, I think, came and presented about the traffic situation at Frederick Garland and 48, that was something I think these guys
Yeah.
could have benefited from being there. I don't think we know what they do, and I don't think they know what we talk about. And I think there's a lot more that we could get done better if we had established rules or met together and identified, like, hey, do we want to pursue this park on the east side of the river? Well, what steps do we take?
Yeah.
You guys run with that and, get Jeff to talk to Ron to, do those things. But I don't think we do a good job at
I think that's a
making this
great idea. We
happen.
can do it quarterly, semi-annual. You decide how often you want to meet, and we'll put it together.
I mean, I would see this being more important than our school meetings at this point, that we don't get a lot accomplished from them. But this, I think, would be pertinent to actually make some real things happen.
Just let me know, we'll put it
I think
together.
it'd be cool to do the meeting in the park, you know, do the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a
And it-
huge fan of that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying when weather season appropriate,
Not
you know.
today.
Not a sledding event on
But
the
in
hill,
the
but.
summertime, it would be, I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea, actually,
Yeah.
to like get out and just invite the community. I mean, obviously it's a public meeting, but invite the community too, but to get out and have a meeting out somewhere would be awesome.
I'll do it.
Have you connected with Retail Strategies?
I'm not sure. Benito, have we spoken to Retail Strategies directly? I know we knew that they had their study underway.
No, we did not have the opportunity to talk with them. I believe when they were contracted to work with the village, this plan was already nearing towards the end of its draft phase. And I don't believe again, at the time when we found out that Retail Strategies was working with the village, there wasn't enough information to get from them. So it's still an option that we can pursue at some point. Although we do have an economic development chapter, that information is incorporated into it, but once again, it doesn't go into a lot of detail because it wasn't a topic that was fully expanded, like it was fully discussed by village leadership. So short answer is no, but we at some point when this plan is reviewed and updated in the future, that specific chapter obviously could be amended to include whatever findings that Retail Strategies finds. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I believe it's contracted for like a 5-year strategic plan.
It's a 3-year
So it's
initially.
a 3-year plan, and they will work with the comprehensive land use plan.
Sure.
They have the chapters that have been completed, but I was just wondering, I will make that introduction. I'll send everybody an email just to introduce you guys, because, I mean, it all works together, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not writing comprehensive land use plans, and you're not attracting businesses, so it works together, and I think I'll make that connection.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we should, once this gets approved, we should send them, a version, or even if you feel
100%.
comfortable sending them a draft and saying like, we want you to be looking at business opportunities that reflect this community identity and character and these specific areas that are outlined in the comp plan.
That would be awesome.
I think these
That would be
things do
awesome.
need to
Like-
jive together.
Yeah, and what's cool with them is they've also been working with Heritage Ohio, so like everybody's on the same page about, I mean, I'm talking specifically on Main Street,
Yeah.
but everybody's on the same page about what we're trying to do, and so I think just having this comprehensive land use plan is like the foundation
Yeah,
of what we're trying to build, and so if everybody has that, even if it, changes, I can't see it changing drastically.
Right.
I mean, it might, but if that, then we'll just pivot, it's fine. But, I'll make the connection.
yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. Good suggestion. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question on like the efficiency aspect of it.
Sure.
So if you found that it's more efficient for a group of planning board of like 4 people, for example, is it best to like maybe for each of us to pick our own 1 or 2 things that we find most important and kind of go a divide and conquer approach? Or do you find it more efficient that maybe a group of us, like a group of 4 people, kind of picks the 2 or 3 things out of the 100 that are in here and like put more?
Yeah, that's a good
Different
conversation point. It might be most efficient for each of you to take 2 chapters and say like, I'm gonna really review the Parks and Rec and the, whatever it is, the transportation chapter, and share my thoughts with the other planning board members, and then you guys can kind of like combine your comments based on that. It's however you really want to do it. It might be more efficient than having everyone go through the entire document.
Right.
And if you have specific areas that you're most interested in or you have knowledge about, then it would make sense for you to look at that chapter in a little bit more detail.
And there's probably mutual ones, like there's two that all of us might have mutual,
Sure.
like there's one or two things in here that we definitely all agree on the most that needs the most focus, or some things in here that maybe can be pushed aside a little bit longer
Yeah.
than other things, so.
So I'd say, yeah, I would coordinate with the other planning board members on kind of that evaluation and what that might look like going, I would say like between now and mid-January, that would be good for you all to take a close look at this. I know the holiday season is right in the middle of everything, but if there's a way for you all to give it a fairly thorough review in the next month and a half, I think that would put everything on the right track to then have it go to council for their feedback, comments, and approval. But I don't want to set your schedules for you or your process. But that's a good suggestion, for sure.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all. I know this is a lot, but it's been really awesome working with you on this. I love that there's been so many things that have been achieved over the last 3 years as we've been doing the plan. We're moving in the right direction. We got to build on those wins. And so just, we're excited to kind of put the finishing touches on this, get it rolled out, make it very usable for you in the future, and make it, have a great tool to help guide the future growth of the village. So thank you for allowing us to participate in this. I'm sure we're going to stay in touch on many different things going forward, but just want to say thank you and happy holidays to everyone.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay. Thanks, Benito. Signing off.
All right, take care.
Is there any other business that you wish to conduct? Mayor, is there any other business you wish to conduct?
Is there any old business? No.
The only other item I had for new business, for the planning board, there will be a rezoning request on the agenda for the January planning board meeting. I'd obviously get you that information.
Is that the only thing that we have currently?
As of now, can I give everybody an update on the zoning code? Councilor Fogel completed his review, and he and I went over it, and it's been turned over to Choice One to incorporate all of the comments and changes that he suggested. Once that process is complete, it will be provided to all of you to begin your review. There are still a handful of key decisions that have to be made. Probably the most important will be coming to a consensus on what the appropriate distance for setbacks. As you all have learned, 90% that 90% of your business has been dealing with variances to modify the setback.
For sheds.
Sorry?
For sheds.
For sheds and fences, everything. So,
We actually deal with this or.
exactly, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So, so the point will be, obviously you're reviewing this, we'll get you the new zoning code, we'll start working through it, have as many meetings as we need, and hopefully sooner rather than later come up with a final version to recommend to the council to adopt as the new zoning code. Any other questions? That's all I have if you're ready to adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.